Welcome back. And this weekend, the Niagara IceDogs are making their final trip of the season to the Sadlin Arena. And I figured now is a great time to get Ted Lehman on, the play-by-play voice of the Niagara IceDogs. And Ted, you've been covering this IceDogs team pretty much from the beginning since they relocated to St. Catharines. This franchise, you've basically seen it all.
Yeah, really, Mike, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. But I got to tell you, I came in January of 2008, halfway through the first season, and short of a one-year little holiday before COVID, I've seen it'll come up on 1,200 OHL games so far, so 600 bus rides.
So you've been keeping track of the bus rides?
Well, just think about it. I mean, if half your games are on the road, divide how many games you've done by two, and you got the number of times you've been on the bus.
There we go. And I know you've mentioned it a few times how you're ready to write a book. So I guess you'll have the chapter about the bus journeys with the Ice Dogs.
Oh, I think those things, it's really kind of funny because there aren't as many things that happen on the bus as people might think. And I think people get paranoid about what happens on the bus stays on the bus. Although, if you want one, I can give you one bus story.
Here we go.
Yeah. Happened many years ago. One of our players laid out a really great hit in Kingston on one of the front nacks. And the end result was he ended up with a severed urethra. The skate came up and sliced him.
Yeah.
He went back to the bench, got high fives, and then he went back out and he said he felt something warm and wet. So then he went off the ice. And of course, it wasn't, not fun, but it wasn't major problem. But they, had to make the repairs in Kingston. So on the bus back, players are saying, so what happened? What happened? And what happened to him? And I think when these young guys heard severed urethra, they thought that was a soul singer named Franklin. So nobody understood what had happened. But Mike, it was the quietest contemplative bus drive in history. From the back, all you could hear was players with legs crossed going, oh, like, and it's a challenge for guys like you and me. Your trivia question today, is that an upper body or a lower body injury?
It's just a body injury.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with this Niagara franchise, like I have a soft spot for Niagara because I went to Niagara College. I was there when the team moved to St. Catharines, and we had like a radio show at Niagara College covering the team. So it's been quite the story just to see how this team's developed coming over from Mississauga, and just even the runs this team's had. Like the fan base must be pretty incredible from your perspective, seeing that you go to pretty much every game.
Well, yeah, basically every game. The fans have been incredible, and I will give credit where credit is due. When the Ice Dogs came in, you would have been here. Probably the best move made by the previous ownership, and I didn't know this till I was around for about 5 years, was fighting the commissioner to make the name of the team the Niagara IceDogs. And the point they made was coming into a junior B market, you'd have to get Fort Erie Meteors fans and Thorold Blackhawk fans, Port Colborne Sailor fans, Niagara Falls Canucks fans. They would have to become Ice Dogs fans. And if you call them St. Catharines, them's fighting words. Now you had a problem. So that was genius as far as that went. And it really bought, to this day, we keep working with our own, radio entity to keep bringing the region together. It's the region's team.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really incredible about the whole market, just how the whole Niagara region is really bought on. Even people who are from Niagara Falls who remember the Thunder, they're still jumping on board with the Ice Dogs, even though, like you said, the team's playing in St. Catharines.
Well, and it's funny when you go back, and this is kind of fun because you're so much younger than I am, and you've grown up within the internet and that kind of craziness. And if you think about it, the negativity tends to get really loud. So here you are in Niagara. You get a new owner in Darren DeDobler who comes in. He's got a beautiful Meridian Center, 5,300 seats. He's got this franchise with all this great history. And the day the guy walked in the door, the rumor started. He's moving the team to Brentford. He's going to trade with Brentford. He doesn't want to be here. The man is a really smart individual. Nobody is giving up the Meridian Center for a pick and a poke somewhere else in Ontario.
Well, especially when you've experienced what it was like at the Jake Atcliffe Arena. You go from the 3,000 seat benches in that barn to, yeah, it's like one of the palaces now in the Ontario Hockey League.
Well, along with the Sadlin Center, and it's the same kind of, almost same kind of layout, and they've really enjoyed it. The Jack was special, though. I mean, if you never got to experience something like the Jack, I mean, it was the fans were on top of the players. There was a pneumatic train horn that almost blew the windows out of the building every time a goal scored, and it had its little idiosyncrasies like Every now and then, the ice would melt. Um, Branches would break, doors would break, glass would shatter, power failures. I mean, you never knew exactly what was going to happen, but that can happen anywhere. Years ago, I was working morning radio in Kitchener, and we had a Toronto Maple Leafs exhibition game that lasted 94 seconds because a Starling flew into the transformer at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, blew out the power,
Oh
and after
man.
people sat around in the dark for umpteen minutes, somebody announced, well, the game's canceled. And everybody, because we're Canadian, quietly went, okay. And they all left the building.
Just so casual.
Oh, no,
And
try to do that in the States. Tell them the game's canceled and see what happens.
oh, it'd be chaos right
Yep.
now if you did that today in today's day and age. But for you, you've seen it all with this Ice Dogs team too. Like even the runs to the championship. It's just too bad running into the London Knights both of the occasions. But still, Niagara quite the history since coming over from St. Catharines.
Well, when you talk about those runs, if you go back to 2012 and recently, because he celebrated 1,000 games coach, I had Marty Williamson on our broadcast. And I'm not saying this because you're here, Mike, one of my favorite people in the world. And you can trace a line from Marty in to Marty out to basically the rebuild going on right now with the Ice Dogs. There's no two ways around it. But when I asked him about his favorite team, he said the 2012 Ice Dogs. And when you get the writer from the London Free Press picking London to lose in the OHL final, that doesn't happen very often. I don't think it'll ever happen again. That was the team that was upset in the finals. They unfortunately, teams figure out how to win at the right time. Teams unfortunately figure out how to lose at the right time. The 2016 team was nothing short of just a magical run. Alex Nedeljkovic. There was a playoff game where he stopped 35 shots between the third period and 18 minutes of overtime to win a game. And still, by the way, he said it was a great team effort. And they swept Barrie that year. They swept Kingston that year, two teams above them. But that 2016 team should have been on top of the standings. It was a mystery they weren't. But again, Marty Williamson patiently shepherded them through. All of a sudden, they have an Eastern Conference champion.
And right now, like you touched on it, it's a rebuild going out with the Niagara Ice Dogs. So it's kind of strange seeing Niagara being at the bottom of the standings after having all these great runs with some great talent. But there's some optimism with this team when you've got players like Kevin He and then Ryan Robrick, who just set that record for goals by a rookie. So, if you're a Niagara Ice Dogs fan right now, I know there's probably a lot of questions about what's going on with the team, but you got to be optimistic with where this team's going right now.
Well, I remember when Marty Williamson came over to the Ice Dogs, and we got to enjoy for not long enough the class and the education and the work of Dale Hunter. When he first came in, that was an empty Barrie cupboard. That was Aaron Ekblad and a bunch of guys named Who, basically, and they took it on the chin. I remember we had a teddy bear night that I think it was 8-0 in the first period, and the night before they'd lost 12-0. We used to interview the visiting coaches back then, and I'm sitting there going, "How am I going to talk to a Hall of Famer, and what am I going to ask him that isn't going to sound really stupid, in terms of so how's it going, but that's where Barrie came from, and all of a sudden Barrie, built it back up. It's been a unique situation, Mike, with the Niagara Ice Dogs because you can almost start drawing a line. First of all, they make the decision to move up Marty Williamson. David Bell, excellent coach. They put him in. He decides to leave after 1 year. I'm not going to lay this at the feet of any one person, but what they went through, 11 draft picks for Jason Robertson in the failed 2019 run that got cut short by the Oshawa Generals. Then the sanctions when they end up in the recruiting situation with Zach Wilkie. And other problems they had along the way. All of a sudden, I had a general manager recently tell me it's hard to win without your first round picks. COVID had a hand in it because the draft the Ice Dogs had around COVID, there was no first round pick, and you ended up with a bunch of players early in the second round, but there's one player left on this roster. So that kind of tells you how that draft went. Mm-hmm. It's basically been this didn't happen overnight. They didn't build the team overnight, and the team didn't get into this situation overnight. But you're right. Robrick, Frolov, Galyanov, Ethan Zada. The future is now. They're all getting major minutes. There's been times Ben Boudreau has sent out an all 16-year-old line and wound them up and said, go crazy. and it's only going to serve them well in the future. So you look at a situation where I believe Darren DeDobler, when the wheel turns around, will want the Memorial Cup in 2027. He'd have an overage Kevin He, 4 19-year-olds we just talked about, whoever comes up in this draft, and whatever other moves the team makes, future's looking pretty good. But I can almost draw a parallel to the Barrie Colts. Fan base has been spoiled.
Yeah.
You're supposed to win every year. You're supposed to be in the playoffs every year. You're supposed to have a run, every 2 or 3 years. You look at Sudbury, Peterborough, Kingston. Till Peterborough won last year, those are the 3 teams right at the bottom of the Eastern Conference almost on a regular basis.
Yeah, and you also look at the West. Like, look how long it took Sarnia to finally go to a Western Conference final last year against the London Knights. So it's junior hockey is cyclical, but at the same time, you throw in that COVID season, and we're still feeling the effects of that with a lot of teams, like even the Erie Otters, who haven't been in the playoffs since their championship run in 2017.
Well, again, because people think it's that easy. You can do it. I smile now when I watch the Edmonton Oilers because we all get to watch Chris Knobloch, and we got to deal with Chris Knobloch in the OHL. Just a great gentleman. Even the trials and tribulations of the Arizona Coyotes. We got to talk to Andre Tourigny and his assistant, Mario Duhamel, his assistant coach. We're really blessed, guys like you and me, that we watch the brain trust mature as well as the players do as well. And it's just fun watching it going forward. And again, for guys like you and me, I don't think people get it sometimes. They expect us to take it personally. They expect us to jump up and down when the team wins, and they expect us to feel bad when the team loses. I don't know about you, but my record's perfect. 0-0-0-0 over all these years.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And like you said, we get to see these players, the talent on the ice, and Kevin I think he's probably been my favorite to watch with Niagara whenever he's here in Barrie. And it's too bad we're not going to see the Ice Dogs again after this weekend. But there's a lot of upside with this young talent, and Kevin He's going to be lighting it up, I'm sure, in the NHL in the coming years.
I hope you get a chance to talk to the person. I run into scouts every now and then. They don't ask, and I offer it. I'll sit there and go, Kevin He, really, really great hockey player, but he's an even better person. He's so well brought up. And as a 16-year-old, he could do what you and I are doing right now. Could look somebody in the eye and have a conversation with them. And most 16-year-olds are checking out their shoelaces when you're trying to have a conversation with them. They're just so shy. Kevin came in with that kind of really great upbringing, and it's going to serve him well as he goes forward. And the funny thing with Kevin as we've gone along, and you've seen his draft number, I think there's a lot of detractors still. And I think Kevin He's going to be proving a lot of people wrong down the line. I think the team that does draft him are going to be surprised by what they get.
So now looking towards this weekend, obviously the Ice Dogs are getting ready for a road trip, Barrie and North Bay. So I guess for Niagara fans, it's looking to the future, but still there's that off chance that they could play spoiler here with these final games in the season.
Well, it comes down to simple math as we're looking at it right now. And as you're recording this, heaven knows where we're going to be by the time we even get there on Saturday, because this team has managed to surprise people on a regular basis. They won their first 2 and gave up 1 goal against Kingston, got blown out in their last 2. They've knocked off the Ottawa 67s in their building. They've had ups and they've had downs. There's been a lot of movement, of course, going on in a season like this. They're still in a situation, when you think about it, there's 4 points between Barrie and the Ice Dogs. And somebody I respect a lot came up and offered to me. He said, I think either Barrie or the Ice Dogs are making the playoffs. If you were betting, you'd say Barrie. But this is junior hockey, and you could turn around. I mean, what Barrie's been able to do, minus Bo Akey, for so many games this year. And one of my favorite Colts to watch, and I was so sorry for what had gone on recently, was watching Kayshawn Aitchison, because I found it hard to believe he was a 16-year-old, because you don't find many defensemen at that age that you're thinking, I better have my head up coming across the blue line.
Oh, exactly. So it's fascinating just to see what could all transpire between now and the postseason. And it's going to be great to see Niagara back here at the Saddlein Arena taking on the Barrie Colts on Saturday night.
Yes, sir. We're looking forward to it. You and Gene, just a great job. I enjoy watching the broadcast, and you get all the names right, which to me is one of those skills that a lot of people don't pay attention to.
Well, it's a work in progress. But anyways, Ted, thanks for doing this, and we'll see you at the rink on Saturday.
Mike, all the best. Looking forward to it.
So that's Niagara Ice Dogs radio play-by-play voice, Ted Lehman, and it's always exciting to catch up with fellow broadcasters, even outside of the rink. Because if you see them at the rink, we talk hockey, but you kind of want to talk hockey in between too. So it is great to be able to connect with the other broadcasters, and of course the Niagara Ice Dogs, a good rivalry with the Barrie Colts, and two teams that are looking to the future. And it's always going to be a good rivalry when these two teams go head to head. So love to see the comments down below. What are your thoughts on the Niagara Ice Dogs, and what do you expect going forward for maybe this Niagara Barrie rivalry over the next few seasons? Love to see the interactions. Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.